So, hey everyone. So, today is the 4th of April 2026, and today I'm going to share like what I've studied from the entire morning to till this day, till this time. So, in the morning, I have studied about to solve 2 to 3 DSA problems and 2 to 3 development questions, and worked on the pagination API in the backend and worked in the pagination API in the front end also with infinite scrolling in front end and back end both, but unable due to some constraints like some error was coming. I was unable to complete it, and I will try to complete it tomorrow. So that's it for now. Now let's go to my screen and share the questions which I have done today. So let's give me a little bit of time. Let me arrange my entire screen. Okay, and where is this? So these are the questions of DSA and web development that I have solved today. So first question was related to array, like remove duplicates from a sorted array. So in this, what I have done was that, like what we have to do is that, like suppose if we have given an array over here, now we have to find the unique elements at most to 2. Like suppose that in this array 1 2 3 are given, so we have to use only you have to show only 2 elements in the output. Similarly, in this fashion, in this array also we have to keep maximum number of counts of 2 as true, of ones as 2. Similarly, 2 for ones time and 3 for twos time. So for this, what I have done was that, like suppose I have taken a j variable and a count variable. Now inside this, I was iterating over the loop and applied the condition, like if index of if ith index is greater than 0 and the previous element equal to current element, then I was incrementing the count, else I was resetting the count to 0. And I was checking if count is less than or equal to 1, means if count is still this point is there. So what I was doing was that, like to the jth position, I was marking the elements over there. So this was the approach that I have taken inside in this question. Now let's come to the best time to buy and sell stocks. So in this question, what we have to do is that we have to maximize the result, like in which date we have get the maximum output, like maximum profit. So for this, what we have to do is that we have to iterate over the array for the entire elements and check at which date we get the maximum value, and we have to return the maximum value. So in this, first element is 7, second is 1. So maximum profit can't be maximum profit is 0, because for because in the question it is mentioned that the maximum profit can only be achieved that the previous element, like next element, is greater than the previous element. So in this case, like the minimum element is 1 and the greatest element is 6, so the difference between them is 5, so that's why we are getting 5 over here as the answer. Now similarly, inside this, like the minimum element is 1, but there is no element ahead of 1, so the maximum profit that is maximized is over here 0. So for this approach, what I have done is this: I have iterated over the entire loop, and first of all, I have taken max variable and min variable, like the first element as the min variable, and I have compared like the upcoming elements are less than this first element. If we are getting less than this element, then we are updating the value of min over here. And similarly, I was simultaneously I was checking the value of maximum using math.max of maximum and current element minus minimum element that I have got in the previous iterations, and with the help of that I have written the maximum output. Now let's go to the third question. We have to check whether array is sorted or not, sorted and rotated or not. So there is this first question. What I found was that this question is a little bit tricky as comparison to those two questions. Why I'm saying is that, like you need to have this condition, like suppose if array is sorted from anyth point, so there can be maximum 2 values which can be greater than the previous value. What I mean to say is that, let's take this example. So inside this, the last element that last element is less than first element, and there can be only one jump. What I mean to say one jump is that like the element 5 is less than element 1. So if the array is sorted and rotated, so the count in this condition will be only 2. Else in all the other cases the count will be more than 2. So for this what I have checked was if the last element is greater than the first element. So I have incremented the count, and similarly I have traversed from the first index to the last index and checked whether last element is greater than the present element. If it is greater, then I'm incrementing the count, and finally returning if count is less than or equal to 2. So that's going to satisfy over all the cases. Now let's come to the development question. And in this question what we have to do is that like return back to top. Like what we have to do is that if a user is going to click over here, then what we have to do is that we have to scroll to top. Now I think so that like that question that attempt has been restored, and in this question what I have done was that if a person is going to click on over here, so then what I was doing was that window dot scroll, and behavior I was applying a smooth, and I was scrolling at the top element over there. So this was the basic question. And second question that what I was found was interesting was the once function. So earlier I have solved this question, but some of the constraints which were mentioned over here was that like the previous elements call should be preserved. Asynchronous functions can also be handled inside this, and if there is an error, so it should throw an error. But in the next time if we are hitting the same this function, and suppose that if in that condition this function is not throwing the error, so it should result it should give us the result, else it should give us the cache value. But inside this what I have done was that earlier what I have done was that like earlier I was invoking this function, and what I was doing was just let this dot f1 was equal to a null or an empty object, because everything gets attached to over the gets attached to the global window, and due to that I was setting this property. But in this question what we have to do is that we have to preserve this. So for this what we can do is that like let me take 2 to 3 variables. Is cached equal to false, and let result equal to null. Okay, so what we have to do is that we have to return a function, and that's going to take us the arguments. And if we are going to spread over here, then arguments will become array of arguments. Okay, and we have to check apply try catch block, because this function can throw error also. So if we are going to go in the catch block, then we are going to throw new error. Okay, and inside this try block, so what we are checking over here is that if is cached, so we are returning the result. Okay, and result equal to function of args. But before that we have to pass this context over here, so that it can remember this execution context, and we are going to return the result. Okay, so what we have done is that first of all we have checked that whether we have made a cache or not. Like on the basis of that, if we have made a cache, then we are going to return the result, and we have stored the result in of this function, which is going to be called only once function with these arguments and with this context which is pointing over here, and we are going to return the result. But one thing more what we have to do is that we have to set this to is cached to true, because if we are not going to set this true, so the next time if this function is going to be invoked, so the entire this function can either go in the catch block or can go in the try block, and if catch is already false, means this function is again going to be executed, which means this function is going to invoke 2 times. So that's why I have put it over this condition. And now let's run the code. As you can see, I have attempted a number of times already. Okay, still I'm getting some issue. Okay, return this function is cached. Okay, I don't know about the issue. That result equal to this is cached equal to true. Okay, let me see the submissions that how I have made this. Okay, result true. Okay, inside this try block. Okay, I was forgetting one condition, like if we have already get the result, so then it should satisfy this condition. But why it's failing now? Once function, okay, dot arguments, this comma args is cached equal to true. But why it's throwing this error? Return function, everything is correct only, or maybe some internal error due to this, but that exact code is same only. Let's see. Okay, this was the approach that I have followed, and that's all for today, and tomorrow we are again going to meet. So till then, see you, bye bye.